Yo.
Hello. Posting the link on Facebook and Twitter real quick.
All right. I'm sending you a list of the first new movies of the year for next week. And the 1992 movies.
Is the Tender Bar not worth talking about?
I mean, if you didn't watch it, then no.
I mean, it comes out the 7th or whatever on Amazon. Is the only reason I asked.
Talk about it then.
I don't think it came
talk about it
locally. All right. All right. Where's Twitter at? Okay. Is it any good?
Oh, the Tender Bar?
Yeah.
My headline on it is that it has the most acting, but not the best acting.
Okay. Ready to finally start, I think.
All right.
I'm afraid we'd start with the Matrix movies and then jump into the best of. Oh,
Sure.
Fuck. What am I missing here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Whose movie am I missing here? Okay. Okay, let's see here. EU, EU, EU. After Lamb. So complicated. All right. Pig. is.
Got it.
Just about. Yes, I think I got it finally.
All right.
I forgot tick. All right. So just the Matrix movies and then our best of?
I think so. Unless you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm disappointed I missed a lot, but thankfully only one that I know I missed is on your list, so I don't feel horrible about it. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. Listen to us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Rate, review the show on Apple Podcasts, and we'll read your review on the air. And give the next one to do it, we'll get a 4K Blu-ray copy of I Spit on Your Grave. So let us know when you do that, and we'll be sure to read it on the air, especially if you're from another country, because we don't always see those. If you want to support the podcast, patreon.com/criticspod is the best way to do that. There you can find our Nirvana, Metallica, and Beatles episode, bonus episodes that are only there, along with our A24 episodes, our I Spit on Your Grave episode, and so many more. That's patreon.com/criticspod to help support the podcast. And then if you want some of our podcast merch, ihatecritics.net. Up in the right-hand corner, there is the TeePublic page, or you can just search Critics Pod on TeePublic. We also broadcast live on YouTube, usually Monday evening, sometimes Sunday morning, sometimes Tuesdays, depends on the week. But we will also post a link on our social media pages when we go live. Or you can also subscribe on YouTube and click on the little bell in the upper right-hand corner if you want to be notified when we go live as well. All right, it's our big best of episode. Before we get there, we're going to talk about the newish movie of the week. I know we skipped a week, so we will start first with I want to skip ahead. Oh, this is out of order. How did that happen? I numbered these so they'd go in order. Well, we'll come back to it anyway. The Matrix Resurrections.
Yes, The Matrix.
Theaters.
Matrix Resurrections is a sequel to the Matrix franchise, picking up several years in the future, where Neo, Mr. Anderson, is now back inside the Matrix and not aware of the world outside. He's been somehow reinserted into the Matrix and is working in a video game company where he's best known for creating The Matrix, a video game of that features all the things that he did in the first three Matrix movies. He's done this. He's been convinced of this by his psychiatrist, played by Neil Patrick Harris, as well as by his partner, played by Jonathan Groff, who has a secret identity of his own. Reality once again begins to slip after a character named Bugs, played by Jessica Henwick, pulls a program called Morpheus out of the Matrix and into the real world of sorts. This character of Morpheus is played here by Yahya Abdul Mateen, and there's a reason why this is not Lawrence Fishburne. It's because it's not really Morpheus, not the Morpheus that we know. It's a computer approximation of what Neo kind of remembers of Morpheus. That's going to become clear as this story unfolds, as we come to understand this brand new version of the Matrix, directed by Lana Wachowski, who really goes heavy meta on this, especially the first half of this movie, and it's quite entertaining in that way. It's got a lot of big action set pieces. Keanu Reeves just slips right back into this role with a great deal of ease and charisma. I liked the inside jokes about the Matrix, and I liked the idea of the Matrix being a video game inside the Matrix, the way that's used to sort of trick Neo into this new life of his that does get explained. Everything, in fact, gets explained. People have been complaining that they're confused by this movie, and I don't understand that, because it's like it completely makes sense. They explain all of this. They do a pretty good job of underlining all of the detailed elements of this and why things are the way they are, whether it's Agent Smith or Morpheus or other aspects of it. So I found the movie quite entertaining. I didn't find it as world changing as the original, which at the time was kind of like a shocker in terms of a blockbuster with a big brain behind it and a lot of big ideas. But in terms of just being a big blockbuster action movie, I really liked it. I was surprised to see it fail as hard as it did.
Well, it was on HBO, and I don't know if they've really started releasing those metrics or not. I watched it. I'm not a fan of The Matrix. I haven't seen the second or third one. I was still able to follow it, but at the same time, I had a harder time with the meta stuff. Like, to me, that works better in a comedy. And, I think of like 21 Jump Street or something like that, when they're referencing, down the street's 22 Jump Street, or across the street's and I get it. It's funny. And here it was more bothering me, but at the same time, I don't care about this. I'm not interested in the subject matter at all. So it's hard for me to count my opinion as meaning anything, because it's just not a movie that I care about at all. So, but I gave it a shot, and I don't know why people think it's confusing. I mean, I haven't seen the second or third one. I knew what was going on. So if that's weird, a weird criticism for me.
Yeah. I think if you're confused by this movie, you're just not trying.
But there's something too, though, where maybe it should be more confusing. I don't know. I don't know. I'm so not into, the world within a world type storylines. That's not something I'm scared of. That's not something I even consider as a possibility. And if it is a possibility, I don't care, because I'll deal with it then. That's kind of my, the way I look at that possibility. If, we're all inside of whatever, if the Matrix were real, I just don't care. And and they don't really bring anything new in terms of, like you said, how groundbreaking the first one was. That doesn't exist here. It's fine for an action movie, you're right, but there's nothing groundbreaking here at all. And to the point where they talk, like they work in some of the groundbreaking things from the first movie as part of the plot point in this movie with the what did they call it? The gunshot, I don't know.
Bullet time.
The bullet time, that's right. I don't know. I really have no idea what. the few people I've heard talk about it were fans, and they liked this one. Okay, they didn't love it, didn't hate it, but I don't. You're right. It is kind of weird how quickly this left the pop culture. It just after a Christmas weekend or right before it, you just didn't hear about this again.
Yeah,
So
it was
that's kind
weird.
of shocking to me.
I love how this movie has such a heavy meta quality, like to the point where like Keanu Reeves is the perfect lead for this because the way he's become a sort of pop culture icon, he is a person now that you would want to rescue. Like he's a person who you want to see protected and treated well, and that's kind of what the whole point of the Matrix Resurrections is rescuing Keanu Reeves and making sure he's okay. And then paying tribute to what a nice guy he is. that meta was kind of cool to me. I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed Jessica Henwick, who plays the character of Bugs, who's this new sort of insert character who is kind of gender fluid and exciting and different looking and really charismatic. I really loved her performance. But my favorite performance in the movie isn't any of the leads. It's Jada Pinkett Smith, who returns as Niobe, a very much older version of Niobe. She is fantastic. The makeup a little iffy, but her performance and the way she brings the past to the present so beautifully, that was my favorite part of the movie. I was really surprised to find that to be my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. Back to the meta stuff. Part of me was wondering how meta they were going to go, so how they're going to get Keanu Reeves involved in this and tie in Bill and Ted. Just because the way I don't know, you're right. He's a guy you want to root for, a guy you want to save, but he needs to be confused, which he does really well as an actor. But Bill and Ted, those characters were confused characters. True. And at times I was kind of like, what is he? I don't know. I just had a hard time with it, but I'm also not. I don't know what he was like in the other two movies outside of the first one, and I did watch the original again, and I had a hard time getting into it, and that could just be me, getting stuck around the peripheral and not really digging into the movie. And again, it's not a subject matter I care about, so that's part of the problem too.
We have a 1 degree separation from the creators of the Matrix. Our buddy cousin Jeff is actually friends with one of the Wachowskis.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one?
I can't remember which one off the top of my head.
And this is only Lana, right? Lily is not part of this.
Right.
I mean, do you know why, or is there?
I don't know.
Busy doing something else.
Could be busy doing something else. I don't know for sure. They both have enough money that it doesn't really matter if they work again. So
this is true. And then part of me was like, it's a lot longer than the other Matrix movie, the Cloud Atlas long. And I was wondering how I don't know. It wasn't that weird though. It was like, again, it wasn't boring by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know. Anything else on this one before we go to the first one?
No, I liked it. I didn't like it enough to actually finish my review of it online, my written review, but I liked it enough.
Yeah, but if you didn't get it out right away, no one was going to read it because they already forgot it exists. But yeah, this is the original Matrix.
1999, The Matrix, starring Keanu Reeves, and of course Lawrence Fishburne in the role of Morpheus, along with a pretty terrific cast, supporting players, including Hugo Weaving as Mr. Smith or Agent Smith, who becomes a main protagonist throughout the first three films. This is the story of Thomas Anderson, who is a hacker in this universe. He has been receiving messages from a guy named Morpheus, who has been promising to lift the veil of the universe for him. And that's what he does. Essentially, he gives him a choice between a red and a blue pill. The red pill takes him out of the Matrix and into what is the real world, which has been destroyed by a war between man and machine. Echoes of the Terminator and some great sci-fi of the past are in there, which is pretty cool. But Keanu Reeves is the center point here, and he's such a great, innocent, naive lamb being led into a very difficult potential slaughter. He's just he's so interesting as a lead. He's such a perfect audience avatar because really the Keanu Reeves of this particular time was kind of not as big a star as he was about to be. And he developed a reputation for, these kind of absent-minded, naive characters who are kind of not particularly bright and sort of carried along by the plot. And that's not to say that he's a bad actor. It's just that sometimes that's how he came off. And so it made him actually perfect for this role because you feel like Neo. You are Neo, essentially. You with Keanu Reeves, and I know it sounds like I'm criticizing calling him blank, but he really is kind of a blank slate for you to easily project yourself upon and into his mind and his feelings. That's kind of the experience of the Matrix, is being able to feel like you are Neo and feel like you get to be that cool and feel like you get to be the one, which I find to be a very compelling plot and a very compelling way to carry forward an action movie.
No, I mean, that's a fair description of him as well, because he's not always like that, but he hadn't gotten to that level of stardom yet. I mean, even a movie like Speed really launched Sandra Bullock, and it launched him too, but his character, you don't remember that Keanu Reeves in any other movie, that's isolated to Speed. Point Break, he was kind of an airhead. Bill and Ted, like I was mentioning earlier, so you knew just enough that that makes sense why he's the perfect person for this role. And then, you can't underestimate the power it had on pop culture. Mm-hmm. The issue is the time that it came out. It was so quickly parodied and copied, and usually you had a little time to sit on it with. It was almost instantly that the bullet time shot was everywhere after that. And so it lost some of its groundbreaking. You forget how groundbreaking it was, and so quickly it became a joke that it didn't get. I mean, it got the credit it deserved, but I don't know. I don't feel like it gets held on the same level as something like Star Wars or, something else, from earlier, because there's more time to live with that stuff. And, we were already starting to become such a disposable, I don't know, population, whatever the word is, that I don't think we kind of take its groundbreaking, what it did, for granted. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I just don't care. And, it's, again, the other thing that I've mentioned before on the show is one of my best friends in high school's name was Thomas Anderson. And at the time, he was starting to, I don't know, we were just kind of starting to go different directions to the point where we're just like, oh my God, I don't want to be around this person anymore. And he probably felt the same about me. And then to go and see this movie, literally the year after we graduate, I was just like, fuck this character. I don't so I don't know, again, but it's not boring. It's easy to follow. It's just something I'm not, it's the same thing when we were talking about musicals a few weeks back. It's just not something I'm interested in or care about. So I don't spend a lot of time searching out movies like this.
Hopefully. The funny reputation that this movie develops too among alt-right thinkers who, I've taken the red pill, I see what the world is really about. That's very funny to me, because the red pill, blue pill thing and reality, and the shifting of one reality to another, is actually a metaphor for Lily and Lana's transition. The red pill is them changing their gender and seeing the world for what it really is through their eyes, becoming who they really were. That's really what the red pill, blue pill metaphor is all about. It's a trans metaphor. So for this to have been adopted by the alt-right is very, very funny to me.
Now you're making me like this movie a little bit. I can get behind that, especially I always love, the born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen thing that all of a sudden Reagan's running around with. Right. When you trick somebody into, believing that something's yours when it's not.
Yeah.
that does add a little bit to this for me.
Yeah, and the thing about it, this Matrix Resurrections, I didn't bring it up because it can kind of be a convoluted metaphor, but and I don't think either Lily or Lana have really talked about it in their transition, but psychiatry has a very negative history when it comes to people who are trans. They try and convince you that what you're feeling isn't real. They try and tell you, you think you're a woman, but you're actually a man. And part of the reason why Neil Patrick Harris's character in Matrix Resurrections is a psychiatrist, a program disguised as a psychiatrist, is to try and convince Neo that the Matrix is real, and essentially the same thing that Lily and Lana both went through with psychiatrists and mental health people trying to tell them you're not a woman, you're a man, and trying to convince them what their reality was, even though they could see what their reality was.
Not to get away from that point, but do you think when they were like, did they have this whole, at least the trilogy portion of it, did they have that all mapped out from the get-go, or did they just like, this is successful, let's do part 2?
I think it becomes successful and they get pushed into it. I think sequels kind of came about because of the success of this film. You look at the rest of their work and it's not necessarily anything that you're thinking about multiple. Well, maybe Speed Racer, I guess, would have multiple sequels, but like they're just much more original thinkers in terms of their storytelling than.
Right.
I may not like Cloud Atlas, but it's a big fucking idea.
Oh yeah.
And I can't appreciate that fact, even if I hate that movie.
Oh no, I get that completely. I totally understand why Josh would fall in love, or not just Josh, I'm not bad, but I get why people would love that movie as well. They're fantastic filmmakers. They've definitely done some, if nothing else, movies you want to talk about.
True.
For good or bad. Anything else? Would you like 2 and 3? Or do you not really remember?
I wasn't a huge fan of either one. I found them to be entirely convoluted, and the special effects, were not quite caught up to where they wanted them to be. So everything is very rubbery in 2 and 3, as opposed to this movie, which has slightly more practical effects involved. Of course, the invention of bullet time. It doesn't look rubbery in 1999, but by 2002 and 2003, it looks like rubber characters. They look like Bendhams, wrestler Bendhams from the 80s, and somehow looks less real than it did in 99.
And that is one thing that I think's neat about this fourth one, is that it kind of stands. I mean, it's part of the universe, but it stands on its own. It doesn't get wrapped up in anything convoluted. I mean, it works as a story, and I'm not distracted by anything from the past, if that makes any sense. I don't think it gets lost, and anything. They do a good enough job of separating themselves from those worlds.
It's clever. The way they do things is clever. Like Neo subconsciously creating the program of Morpheus, specifically, or not knowing that he was doing it intentionally to get the attention of people like Bugs. It's reminiscent of what he was doing in the original movie, which he was contacting Morpheus, online via his hacking. Here he's doing it subconsciously. Because again, no matter what, for this guy, for Neo, for Thomas Anderson, this Matrix will never fully be real, and there'll always be a part of him that's searching for the real world, that's searching for what's real out there. And I just love that idea, the way that they use the original movie in that footage and change it and have Bugs as the sort insert characters say, this is not how this went down originally. I know this. This is our person. This is our history. This is the way we remember. The way we remember it is different from this. That was such a clever way to introduce a new version of Morpheus and a way to kickstart that story. It was very clever.
Absolutely. All right, now it's time to dig into our top 10 movies of 2021. And in all fairness, I haven't seen Nightmare Alley. I haven't seen the Soho movie. I haven't seen Licorice Pizza. I haven't seen Ghostbusters, and there's a few others that I haven't seen that I don't get to have on my list. But I don't remember which one of us I had going first, so I'll just flip it. And whoever it is can go, and it is me.
All right.
I had a hard time with number 10 because there was three movies. Well, one was Power of the Dog, which ended up being an honorable mention, but a movie that I just really kind of fell in love with her as a filmmaker from that week. And it's not totally for that movie, it's for the piano as well. And it was kind of fun to discover somebody who's been around a while. And I thought that was a hell of a movie. And then there was We Need to Do Something, a movie that wasn't quite perfect. And I think we kind of came up with a better version of that movie when we talked about it on the podcast. Although I still liked the movie and I liked the originality of it. And then there was this one, the Jinn. I don't remember how to pronounce it.
The Jinn.
Found this to be kind of an original idea too. And that was the one thing that really helped 2021. I got an argument with my brother, not an argument, just kind of debate, and he was calling this a shitty year for movies, and I was calling it a great year for movies. And he's like, name a good blockbuster. I'm like, I don't know, but Lamb's fucking awesome, and and movies like this, and even We Need to Do Something, and a couple movies we're going to get to later on were all really great original movies. And this one, I like the use of the Boyle couldn't talk, the dad being gone. I don't know. I just thought it was a neat, clever little horror movie idea. And also putting this list together at the last minute. This one just kind of hung on at 10. I think we liked it. I could have swore we liked it at the time.
Absolutely, The Jinn's a terrific movie. You know, the way they use that small space, that tiny apartment, is brilliant. And just the use of spacing and the camera work is very clever. The visual invention, of the villain is fantastic. That really creepy face makeup right at the very end, that shocker moment, is fantastic. The kid is great. So there's a lot of really good ideas, and two very clever directors who really put a lot of thought and a lot of care into creating the scares that they create in that movie.
Yeah. So I think these small little movies there were quite a bit of them this year, and I really recommend you checking out as many of them as possible. This is just one to start with. But let's move on to your number 10, I Blame Society.
Yes, I Blame Society, written, directed, and starring Gillian Horvat, is a sort of documentary about a woman who wants to be a documentary filmmaker. And she gets this supposed compliment, I guess, from a couple of friends who tell her she'd make a great serial killer. Essentially, she's a sociopath, and this sets her off on a path to make a documentary. Like, am I really a sociopath? Am I really actually a psychopath in the end? And it's also got echoes of Me Too. It's got echoes of so many great female filmmakers of the past, but it is just dark, disturbing, and so funny. She is so hilarious in doing just these completely over the top, ridiculous, and then eventually violent things that she does. It is a relentless movie. It is one that does not let up on its satire. It doesn't let up on her being a villain, but also a villain who has kind of a point in the end. I love this movie so much. It's one of the funniest movies of the year, but it's also like ridiculously violent, and I love that. I love the combination. She is a filmmaker I'm going to be watching for years to come because she's just so smart.
I want to move on to my number 9. Oh, it's the same movie. Again, wholly original. That's something that really is something I've been lacking. We made the Blue Balls joke when Spider-Man came out, and it's these little movies that are getting a chance to kind of succeed and have a life on these streaming platforms that they seem to be getting better all of a sudden. Not that, I mean, I'm sure they were there before, but they're just, I don't know, when a filmmaker has the ability to just do what they want and not have to answer to a studio, that really does give the movie something some more depth for at least me as a viewer. That's what I'm looking for in movies like this, or movies in general. And movies like this are giving it to me. This is fantastic. I couldn't recommend it enough. Definitely go out of your way to find this one.
Came out 1 year ago next week, if you can believe that.
Yeah. All right. You had Pig. What is this, number 9?
Yes, my number 9 is Pig, starring Nicolas Cage, in arguably the best performance of his career, and that says a lot because he's got a lot of really amazing performances in his career. But Pig is just one that just gets under your skin. I was so mad when this movie came out and people were calling it John Wick with a pig. That is such a stupid, reductive, idiotic way to look at this movie, because that's not what this is. This is a lovely film that is about, yes, there's some violence in there, but it's got a point to it, it's got a purpose to it, it's got a weirdness to it that is part of the whole overall story. But the goal, just a guy trying to find his pet pig. It sounds like a weird premise, and then you add Nicolas Cage and it sounds like an even weirder premise. And then director Michael Sarnowski does something brilliant. He doesn't make a really weird movie. He makes a movie about a man who is grieving, who's a little bit lost, who's kind of found his purpose through finding truffles with this pig and living in the woods off the grid, away from the world. And it's about him returning to the world and finding himself a little bit, and also helping other people kind of find themselves, and especially Alex Wolff's character, who is a very shallow individual at the start of the movie who kind of gains depth through his relationship with Nicolas Cage. And then you have, I believe it's Alan Arkin in there as well, who has, the two of them share one of the best scenes in all of the movie. But there are two movies in here that arguably, or two scenes in this movie that could arguably be called the best scene of 2021, which is saying something. As a whole, I think the movie is phenomenal, but those two scenes are so amazing, and Cage is so amazing in them. He's so in control, and he's just so dynamic. It's incredible to watch, and I'm happy to see that he got a nomination for Best Actor for Critics' Choice Awards, which is much deserved. I do plan on, I'm voting for him to win in that category, because I do think this was the best single performance by an actor in any movie last year. There just happened to be 8 other movies that I really love a little bit more, just a little bit more. But at least, like, my top 8 could shift very easily. It's very subjective this year.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, because I think we have a lot of the same movies, but they're randomly all over the place. And in the past, especially the last 5 years, I feel like you and I have been a lot closer, other than the fact that you've seen more. Mm-hmm. It seems like our, Midsummer landing at the same time, Hereditary landing together. We innovate a lot that were, our 3s and 4s are matching up a lot. Here we have a lot of the same movies, but randomly different orders. And it's but that's how cool of a year it was, because it really, they're all, when you were dealing with originality like that, I don't want to be a broken record, but that allows for more, I don't know, just to be surprised, and everybody can buy into what they like more. I love Pig. This is one of my favorite movies of the year. You mentioned, how the director just made a sweet little movie surrounded by weirdness. Like, he mapped out this path through this land of weird and flirted with it. He played with it. And so I actually love the John Wick with the pig comparison, not because it's accurate, but because he gives you enough to go there, but he never, no, he doesn't. He flirts with it. He never quite gets there. And the whole time you're like, when's the action going to start? It's just such a, I don't know, it's pure perfection, really, as far as I'm concerned. I absolutely love this movie. All right, what do we got next? Don't Look Up. Here's part of the problem with not being able to see as many movies as everybody else. Movies like this, which I think is good. This is my number 8, but I noticed it's not on your list. And
an honorable mention for me.
Right, and Adam McKay walks this line of, sometimes he goes a little too far left, other times he just kind of is good. to me, this is the best thing he's done. I think. I mean, even I know he's got Anchorman and stuff, but
Mhm.
I loved the satire of this movie. It goes hard, very very hard, and at the same time, like someone like my dad who leans a little bit more right than I do can watch this and appreciate it. you know, uh, and because it does a good job of not saying which side everybody's on. It leaves enough open that people can realize we're just freaking idiots. And that's
Right.
everything about this movie feels so real, even in its over the top satire that's going on. It feels so real. Uh, and I find the idea to be hilarious. You got some of the best actors in the world: Kate
Mhm.
Blanchett, Meryl Streep, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Jonah Hill. You know, Mark Rylance is phenomenal. It's Ron Perlman.
Oh my God. So many great moments of Ron Perlman.
and just I don't know, everything that happens is so like it's frustrating, but it's something that you feel like happens in real life all the time. So it's a satire, but it's very, very. It definitely goes hard in the paint, if that makes sense. And I appreciate it about this movie, and it's. Uh, I don't know. I just I like what it's going for, and I think he walked that fine line of really making a good point without preaching to the choir. Like I think
Mhm.
this is the type of movie that could actually reach somebody, maybe. So I don't know. I appreciate that about this movie.
I think it's his Doctor Strangelove. I think it's that level of savage satire of modern politics that Doctor Strangelove is still like one of the all-time classics. And this may not rise to the level of an all-time classic per se, but I think in from Adam McKay's perspective, this is that level of good. He's on that same wavelength that Kubrick was on when he made that film about how we're edging towards complete disaster because we're all very, very stupid. And the people in charge are even stupider than the people being led, which is kind of Kubrick's thesis statement on Strangelove is the same thesis statement here. I adore this movie. I just love Jennifer Lawrence. This movie is she's so underrated in this performance, the way she's treated throughout and how she's just so frustrated. just oh god, it's so good. There's so many good moments in this. The with the comet coming towards Earth and Ron Perlman shooting at it is just so funny. That is the just such a major laugh at a moment where you're also kind of thinking about potentially crying because it's so sad what's about to happen. There's so many brilliant things about this movie. Meryl Streep's tramp stamp is great. It's just so perfect. Every aspect of this movie is so strong, and I really do appreciate it. It narrowly missed my list.
And what I guess I like about it best is, you know, lately this seems like the movie we referenced to sum up today is Idiocracy, and I think this can and because it's a neat idea, kind of a sloppy movie. This can kind of take that over, as far as I'm concerned. This one really does
Absolutely.
sum up the way our world is today. All right, John in the Hole.
John and the Hole, directed by Pasquale Sisto and starring Charlie Shotwell as a 12, 13-year-old kid who finds this hole, this uncompleted sort of bunker somewhere in the forest behind his home, and hatches this very odd idea that he's going to drug his family, his older sister, his mother, and his father, and place them in this hole and kind of live as an adult for 4 or 5 days and kind of try it on and see how it fits him. It's the story of a young sociopath just kind of figuring out, am I going to be a serial killer or am I going to be a person? And Pasquale Sisto creates so much amazing imagery and he creates so much tension from silence and observation. amazing. And then you've got this just a number of overarching metaphors that are playing out throughout that really some of them you can't explain, but you're fascinated by them nevertheless. There are a pair of characters in this movie that existed seemingly in their own timeline of this movie that you don't know if it relates how it relates to the original, but it does in some way. And there's a lot of ways to look at it. I love being able to attack and try and piece together exactly what this means. It is extraordinary. And Pasquale Sisto is such an amazing director. Just again, like I talked about, his use of color, his use of silence, the use of framing. The whole itself is fantastic. But then you've got this kid, Charlie Shotwell, these big vacant eyes, this floppy haircut. He's so innocent looking and so sweet looking, and then he's doing this thing that is incredibly disturbing. And I'm fascinated. I love the choices that this movie makes, and I really want to go back and watch it again and again and again just to try and find new meanings.
This was probably my favorite episode that we recorded this year, was when we did this movie. We dove down a couple holes, tried to figure out the movie out, and I just made me love it even that much more. I love the way that he uses, this kid's being a sociopath, to use it as a metaphor for like adolescence and puberty and growing up, and find, all while other things that make no sense, at least on the surface, are going on. You got to kind of figure it out. And again, another director flirting with total disaster, where it could just totally make the movie fall apart and make you hate it, and just never gets to, it just walks that line so perfectly, and instead makes something more fascinating than anything else. And I love everything about this movie, and it'll be strung up a little later.
Good.
All right. I, again, haven't seen as many movies, but I really liked Last Duel. I've always been a Ben Affleck, Matt Damon apologist. And then you throw in Adam Driver and, Ridley Scott, and this new up-and-coming person I didn't know before. Is it Jodie Comer? Is that her name? Mm-hmm. And a movie that, as I'm watching it, I'm hating it for a while until I realize what's going on.
Yeah,
they're telling the same version 3 different times of the story. I think it's insanely smart. I think it's a movie, and I'm going to sound like an idiot, but Ridley Scott bitched that kids don't like to be taught things when they go to movies, but this is a great movie when it comes to teaching people things. This really does nail the Me Too movement perfectly. The way they, in all 3 stories, Adam Driver rapes her, even in his own. Mm-hmm. But it was okay in his version. That's kind of, I don't know. It is just very, and even, I don't know. I just think it's really smart. I think the performances were top notch. I don't know if Ben Affleck's ever been better. Mm. And I just really think more people should see this movie, especially if you are annoyed by the Me Too movement and you're annoyed by the woke culture and all that stuff. I think this is a good movie for explaining why it's unnecessary for that stuff to exist.
Yeah, it is. Right now. Absolutely. This movie gets right. The way people see things, how Damon see things, how everybody can see the same series of events in a very different way. And it never apologizes for Damon or Driver or Affleck's characters. They're all bastards. They are bastards. And it doesn't apologize for them, but it gives you the sense of why they think they're right. And then you get her version of things that seems perhaps the most right, and how she is just consistently their victim throughout, regardless of what she tries to do. And it's a commentary. It's just such a brilliant commentary on the way society treats a woman, and has for so many years. And it's so smart in playing it out as it does. allowing you the audience to sort of piece together what you're watching, all while this grand Hollywood epic is taking place with knights and battles and blood and guts and all that stuff is taking place. You've also got this story happening. And Jodie Comer is incredible. Just give her every fucking award, please. She's so good in this movie.
Yeah, and what I love most is it's not like she's this perfectly spotless, squeaky clean character. She's flawed. She's not perfect either. And so they allow you to see that, the roughness in her character and still pull off what they're trying to pull off with the meaning of the movie. And I think it works that much better. It's not spoon feeding you. It's hard. I mean, it's emotional. There's some really hard to watch moments, but it's the best thing Ridley Scott's done in a while, I think.
Very true. And I can't believe that people talk about House of Gucci instead of this.
Shit.
It's really stupid. House of Gucci is a terrible movie. This is so incredible and so smart. It's an honorable mention for my list. Narrowly missed it like a number of different movies did, but it is just so good. And it's just such a great way to explain, like there's a trial scene in this movie that is basically like Twitter. Like a woman tells the truth and then everybody goes, aha, but what about when you did this? Well, that has nothing to do with this. Well, it doesn't matter. That ruins your credibility. But that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. It's like that. Oh my God, it's an argument on Twitter.
But the thing about it is it's not where someone would walk in and roll their eyes at it either.
Right.
It plays out very realistically.
It's very true to the story. Yes.
Yes. And that's what I don't know. I think it's just very smart, and I definitely recommend people check it out. Lamb.
Yes. Lamb. My number 7 movie of the year is just this incredibly bold and unique film from Valdemar Johansson, that's starring Noomi Rapace and Hilmer Snare Gudnason, a movie that is criminally underseen because people don't like foreign films. This is a movie about a lamb, that a human born with a lamb. I don't even know how to even tell you what this movie's about. What it's about probably just from the materials and from the way we talked about it, everybody talked about it, but you really don't know what this movie's like until you watch it. It is so amazingly suspenseful throughout. The way it builds suspense and tension and then lets you breathe for a moment, and it builds more tension and suspense and lets you breathe for a moment, and all the while building to this ending that just left me in a heap, like my jaw on the ground. I was emotionally spent just experiencing this movie. This movie is an experience. It carries, it just washes over you and carries you with it. And just the way he builds this movie throughout, the tension, the turning of the screw is so strong throughout this movie. The soundtrack is incredible. Noomi Rapace is amazing, but his use of quiet, his use of stillness, the holding back on what is there, which I got to have this sort of midsummer experience, but in the middle of the movie, because midsummer, the very ending, just fucked my head up so badly as I was walking out, just muttering to myself about what happening to the end. That happened to me about 20 minutes into Lamb, when I'm like, show me that fucking abomination now, show it to me, I want to see it. And then they show it to you, and then the movie's not over for another hour. It's like, oh my God, there's more. It's so good. I love this movie.
Yeah, this is probably, in my opinion, the best direction of the year, the best cinematography. Yeah. I love the way it looks. The way he withholds so much information. You only get to see what's important to the director, what he wants you to see. You don't get anything else. And it just keeps you. You're right. Suspense is the word. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time, and you don't even know what the hell's going on. Uh, your head goes in a million directions. You're trying to figure out what's going on, and I don't know. I mean, my brother watched it recently, and he was explaining it to me, and he didn't quite like it as much as us because the ending kind of took him out of it. I'm like, you're fucking insane. He wanted a wolf to come and eat the baby. That would have been fucked up too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But either way, the whole experience of the movie was probably my best experience of the year. And it's just so A24. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. It's the most A24 movie of the year. I love everything about it, and
So wholly original. And just who thinks of this, and then who thinks of how to put this story together? Like Valdemario Hansen is an absolute god level figure for me because of just
absolutely
what a brain, on this guy. I love it so much.
Oh yeah, and right away, I mean, Denis Villeneuve, Ari Aster, those are two guys that pop in my head right away that could make a movie like this. So I mean, he's almost instantly put in that level of direction as far as I'm concerned. Just such a brilliant movie. What is next? Oh yeah, I knew it was close. So yeah, love this movie. What do we got next? Nightmare Alley. I have not seen this.
Number 6 is Nightmare Alley from Guillermo del Toro, and starring Bradley Cooper as a man named Stanton who gets off of a bus in the middle of nowhere and just kind of looking for work and stumbles into this freak show circus. And in so doing, he finds himself a job and begins to learn the art of the con when it comes to the freak show. Specifically from Toni Collette's character, who is a psychic medium whose husband is played by David Strathairn. They show you how they do what they do, and he takes what they do and he tries to take it to another level. And when he does, he sort of there's this rule among people who do what he does that you don't cross into, and he crosses that line. And when he does, the movie takes a very fun and exciting turn. There's so many exciting things about this. I don't want to spoil it because it's so lush and so beautiful, but also such a detailed, smart story with a final act and the final few minutes that is absolutely awesome. When you realize what's about to happen, it's a gut punch. It's so exciting. It's so perfect. You can't believe you didn't predict it before this comes about. But it's like this little visual detail that he adds right before the end that goes, oh fuck. That was my reaction anyway. I was like, oh fuck, what, that's about to happen. I was so excited. I love this movie.
I can't wait to see it, and made multiple attempts to get there, and it will happen. It's the number one movie I want to see right now that I haven't. This is my number 5, Giants Being Lonely. Another wholly original movie, kind of a slice of life type of movie with, again, director playing, a storyteller playing with you, where you're playing with who the main character is and what's going on. I don't know. Just something brand new I had never seen before. Came early on in the year, and I never forgot it. And I'm sure I know it's shown up later on as well.
Yes, it is. I'll save my thoughts till then.
All right. The Lost Daughter, another movie I haven't seen yet.
My number 5 is The Lost Daughter, starring Olivia Colman as a author and professor who is on vacation, who encounters a character played by Dakota Johnson, who has a daughter and is this sort of free-spirited woman who maybe had a child too soon and is maybe not happy about being a mom, and just sort of takes on the role of being a mom just because it's kind of foisted upon her. And it begins to stir these memories for Olivia Colman of her own children and her own time as a mother, and how she, in a flashback played by Jessie Buckley, she actually abandoned her children and went off to pursue her career and her life, and eventually did go back to them. And this movie is a challenge. I got about halfway through this movie thinking I'm going to write an incredibly negative review about this movie. It is so painful to watch. It is so uncomfortable. My skin was crawling. I was cringing so hard in the first half of this movie. There's a scene between Olivia Colman and Ed Harris that captures ridiculous awkwardness between two people in a way I've never felt so viscerally. And I'm an awkward person in general, and I've been in awkward places. And this movie captures that feeling in such a way that I wanted to turn the movie off. And Olivia Colman continues to make choices throughout that are just like, oh my God, what are you doing? Don't do that. And I just love it. It is a high wire act of, is this movie going to tip over into something I completely hate? And then it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it just keeps getting better and more interesting and more exciting. Jessie Buckley is incredible. Olivia Colman is amazing. Dakota Johnson, and of course, just what a great directorial debut by Maggie Gyllenhaal. She takes so many risks and creates a movie that is, I mean, ungodly painful to watch at times because it's so real. It is such a real depiction of anxiety and awkwardness, and especially at a particular age, trying to exist in the world and be friendly and meet people, but also know that there are people out there who are just kind of going to reject you on the face because you're not young anymore. Oh my God, this movie.
Yeah, I definitely need to check this one out. I too am awkward to the point where I don't do things because I anticipate awkwardness. This sounds like a challenge. But I think I'm up for it.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's on Netflix now, so everybody can watch it.
Awesome. All right, I'm bringing back John on the Whole again. My favorite episode to record this year. We've spent a lot of time with it when Sean had it, but I just love this movie. It kind of reminds me of when we discovered Enemy, and trying to figure that one out. And I don't know if we figured this one out, but we definitely had some ideas that I found that really took this movie to another level for me. And just, again, the key word to this year is wholly original, or if that's a phrase, I suppose. But I love the originality of this movie, and you can go back and listen to what we said about it 2 seconds ago. What do we got next? The Green Knight.
My number 4 is The Green Knight, starring Dev Patel and directed by David Lowery. An epic in classic Arthurian literature, but rendered in a low budget fashion. Like, this is an entirely independent movie that doesn't have a $1 billion budget. What it does is it just uses amazing filmmaking technique to do what directors of the past needed millions upon millions of dollars to do, and that makes it that much more impressive on a filmmaking standpoint. But then you have just this incredible story that is so patient and so alive and so beautiful. The cinematography is incredible. Dev Patel's performance is amazing throughout. The chapter by chapter nature of it, the way he tells the story is, I mean, the 2 scenes in Pig are top tier, like in terms of the scenes of the year. But my favorite scene of the year is just this one shot in The Green Knight. The Green Knight has just been robbed by a character played by Barry Keoghan. He's laying in the woods, seemingly waiting for death. The camera focuses on him and then begins to turn, and we watch the season change, just in the trees and the grass and the leaves. And we do an entire 360 back around to his corpse, not his dead body, but like his bones, like it's been picked clean. And then the camera does another one of those 360 pans, and we're back to him alive. You can parse the meaning of that for days and days and days, but the point of it is it's just so amazingly beautiful and thoughtful in capturing nature and life. And I mean, that one pan is just that much more brilliant than every other movie that came out this year. Uh, it's so good. Uh, there's so many amazing sequences, but I got to talk about Barry Keoghan because Barry Keoghan plays this character who ends up robbing the Green Knight. Barry Keoghan is maybe the most interesting and effective actor working today. He is got this sort of Dennis Hopper like energy where he is just this constant chaos demon and you have no idea what he's going to do. He even did that in the Eternals, where it's like you're making a superhero movie, but Barry Keoghan is there just making his own movie in everything that he does. He did it in The Killing of a Sacred Deer. He does it here. He does it in just about every movie that he's in. And I'm so fascinated by him. He is so amazing, but he's just part of this incredible tapestry of the Green Knight that builds to this amazing ending. Just such an amazing ending. Ralph Ineson delivering one line at the very end of this movie floored me. I love it so much.
Yeah, this movie's shown up later for me as well. Just, you know, it is a retelling of a story that existed, and it's completely original.
I think it also helps, like, we watched a really terrible version of this same story, and it just kind of highlighted how incredible this version is.
Yeah, but at the same time, we've been doing this podcast for a long time, and Sword and Sandal movies have come and gone. I don't think you've liked one of them.
No.
We've gone back and talked about like Gladiator, and you didn't like that one. And there's so many of these movies that are just so repetitive, and some are fine, and and they work for what they are. But this is just a whole new level of originality with that genre, and I just absolutely love it. And we'll get back to it later on. I don't have much more to add than I already have, but we'll do that then. My number 3 is The Killing of Two Lovers. Again, probably could have been 1, could have been 10. It's that great of a movie. But it definitely is one of the best movies of the year, if not the best. Just such again, amazing storytelling. The horror. I don't even know how to explain it. You want to just go do it later on?
Yeah, I got a lot more to say about it. So
yeah, let's talk about this in a couple minutes. This is my number 3. Your number 3.
Yes, my number 3 is Giants Being Lonely. We just talked a little bit about it, but I'll go into it further because when I was writing my list, I was kind of like, where am I going to put Giants Being Lonely? And so I sat down and started thinking about it again. And it occurred to me that, when you really get down to the bones of this movie, it's kind of like a small town version of Amadeus in a way. There's this quite a Salieri Amadeus thing happening where you've got this one small town pitcher who really doesn't want to be as talented as he is. He's just so talented that it's undeniable. And then you have this other player who's just so incredibly jealous of him, who's kind of good in his own right, but nobody recognizes him as being good because he's being compared to this other kid. And the way that builds intention and excitement throughout is unique, and you don't see the ending coming. And when you don't see the ending coming, you get punched in the face by this fucking movie because of the final choice that they make is so brilliant. I just keep finding new layers when I peel away at this movie. And it's bizarre to me just how long it took to get to this. 2019 is when this movie came out and hit at a little bit at Berlin, but it wasn't until that they kind of hooked up with Guillermo del Toro and others who helped find it some distribution this last year. And most people have never heard of this movie. Most people have never watched this movie, but they should, because it's absolutely brilliant. And Greer Patterson is a director to watch. He's got a lot of big ideas. He's an incredibly thoughtful director. He's got a strong visual sense throughout, and just a really smart taste for how a kind of small town Shakespearean storytelling.
That's a great comparison, because when I watched it, Richard Linklater was the guy that he reminded me of that. But you throw Amadeus into a Richard Linklater movie, it's kind of what this is. Especially his good ones. But that makes it so good. I mean, almost better than something like, I mean, definitely better than something like Dazed and Confused or Everybody Wants Some or Slacker or whatever. It really is that good, and it's a shame that this isn't more talked about. I feel kind of, I don't know. I think you watch it and you can't help but fall in love with it, or at least be blown away by it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Sucks you in and it holds you there, and then it punches you in the face.
Hard. I mean, this came out. We were able to see it early in the year, and it's like it. I knew it was on the top of your list for a long time, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And it definitely hung up around that way for me too. And I knew that was an easy one to get on my list. I just, as a matter of where do you put it? Again, it could be number 1, could be number 10, could be anywhere. They're all. It's a fun year.
Yes, I agree.
All right, I got The Green Knight at whatever number we're on, number 2. Again, just the fact that we spent years talking about movies like this and not liking them, specifically you not liking them, and then have this come out and be so just awesome, so well made. It's a movie where you could literally take a picture of any frame of the film and put it on your wall. That's how beautiful it looks. And it's just, it creates its own world and it exists in it, and you just, I don't know, everything about it is so smart. This definitely will be a repeat viewing movie. Obviously this and Lamb are the 2 big A24 movies for me in terms of truly A24 looking movies. Yeah. Lamb goes that Arias route. This goes in another route, but still one of the just 2 of the best movies of the year. Just absolutely love it.
Yeah, A24 and another fantastic year.
Yeah, even the movie you called the worst movie the A24 did is getting rave reviews. I still need to watch that. It's popping up everywhere now.
Which one is that?
The porn star one.
Oh, yeah, Red Rocket. Yeah, fuck that movie.
I'm just saying, it's showing up all over like my social media feeds. And
I want you to see it.
I will watch it.
Maybe you'll see it differently than I did, but I really did hate that movie. Not as much as I hate Being the Ricardos, or like those are the 2 like worst movies of the year up in terms of big movies that people have actually heard of. The 2 worst movies of 2021 are movies nobody's ever heard of. Scavenger and The Serpent are I'm the only one who's had to suffer through those garbage movies. Scavenger is an outright crime that somebody needs to be arrested for, and The Serpent is an action movie version of The Room.
All right, you're number 2, Tick Tick Boom.
Tick Tick Boom. What an emotional experience this movie is. It's an emotional roller coaster from beginning to end. Andrew Garfield plays Jonathan Larson, the legendary creator of Rent, which, whether or not you're a fan of Rent doesn't matter, because what this is about getting to the heart of creativity in a way that few movies have ever gotten to. Like, there are a lot of movies about the creative process and about creative people, but few of them get right down to the heart of creation the way this movie does. And it doesn't do that stupid thing where like every aspect of somebody's life is used as an inspiration. Like, there's a movie called The Man Who Invented Christmas, a Charles Dickens movie, in which he writes A Christmas Carol and everybody in his life is a character from A Christmas Carol, inspiring him to choose stupid shit to put into the fucking Christmas. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. This movie is not that. This movie has just that spark of inspiration that is part of creativity and the part of the lives of creative people. But it also has this ticking clock of the fact that that Jonathan Larson died right before Rent was became this worldwide phenomenon. And with that, there's a poignance to it. And Lin-Manuel Miranda directs this so beautifully. And it's a musical, but it's not Hamilton. He doesn't use the tools of Lin-Manuel Miranda. He's working as Jonathan Larson here, and letting Jonathan Larson's personality and music carry the story forward. It's based off of a play by him, a rock and roll play by Jonathan Larson that is kind of a one-man show, but him and a band and some singers doing this kind of one-man Broadway show that is absolutely amazing. The energy, the life of the musical numbers in this film are just incredible. It's so smart. It's funny that it pays tribute to Broadway in this amazing way with this amazing scene at a diner that is one of my favorite things I've ever seen. I've become kind of a Broadway nerd in the last year. Not that I plan on ever going to Broadway or anything, but I kind of fallen in love with the history and the excitement of Broadway. And with this movie just kind of tapping into that, it reached me on an emotional level that few other movies reached me this year.
I love this movie. I think Andrew Garfield's one of the best performances of the year in this movie. It's not on my list simply because I didn't know where to put it. It's kind of, again, I could throw all these movies on the ground. I just kind of pick them up one by one and be happy with that list. And this one probably, it's on my honorable mention, probably 11 right there. I just didn't know where to put it, but it is, what Lin-Manuel Miranda does really well is I want to say there was a movie earlier this year that was almost too much like him. Like, was it In the Heights or something like that? It was almost too Hamilton-y. Yeah. This one, he does a great job of just walking that line of, he uses a little bit of his style, but for the most part, it's Jonathan Larson, like you said, and all he does is sprinkle on there just enough. There's so much great about this movie. It's awesome. Everybody should go watch it. If you don't like musicals, which I am not really a musical guy, this is one that really did win me over, and probably why it should be on my list because it really was that good. I just didn't know where. It's so hard for me to judge this over, Pig or whatever else. So, but yeah, amazing movie. My number one is Pig. Again, it could be 10. They're all neck and neck for me. It was kind of the year of Nicolas Cage. I know he let us down once.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he knocks it out of the park over and over again. And then you have this movie, which, I don't know, it just really, really good. We went into it earlier, and I love the way they walked the fine line of normal and weird, and, sweet and weird. This really small movie in this John Wick universe. It's totally kidding. Love this movie though.
This is not a poster for that movie, by the way. This is not a poster for Nicolas Cage.
I know, but okay. I liked it. the number of wrong posters I ran into, this is the only one I used, but it made me laugh.
It's a deserving number one, and it's number 10 on my list. And the best movies of the year are all so close this year, aside from one for me that we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, I just adore Pig, and Nicolas Cage's performance is just wonderful.
And your number one is The Killing of Two Lovers.
Yes, The Killing of Two Lovers, starring Clayne Crawford as a husband and father who is seeing his life slowly slip away from him as his wife is moving on with another man. This movie caught me from moment one. Just this sleeping couple, this pitch perfect quiet, and then this splash cut to this man holding a gun, standing against a blank wall, pointed at them. You don't know what happens in that moment. He's climbing out the window, and you're wondering, did he just kill those two people? What just happened? And he's just kind of jogging down the street back to his house, which is not far away. And from that moment on, I was just riveted by this movie, by what director Robert Machoyan was thinking and how he was playing out this story and how incredibly relatable it is. Now, I've never held a gun on anybody, but I get the emotions at play here. I get the I get the ideas at play here, and I can relate to this character and the way he uses film technique to keep you in this character sphere, but at the same time being incredibly fair. Like the reason why his wife left is very obvious. Like he makes it clear that she's not a villain. She didn't do anything to harm him. She didn't cheat on him. She's simply trying to get on with life, which is something that he's been unwilling to do, which is why she decided to leave him in the first place. He's not going anywhere. He's not doing anything. He's not trying anymore. And she was drowning and she had to get herself out of it. And she falls into this other relationship because of that. And he doesn't know how to deal with that. And his stunted emotional state is part of the story. People have, you've got to embrace the idea that he doesn't understand why she left him. He doesn't get that, and so he's angry and frustrated, and that's flying out in inappropriate ways. That's the point of the movie. So many people get upset with him as a character, and you're supposed to, asshole. Like that's how you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to judge him, but also understand, like, if you've never had your heart broken before and you don't understand why your heart was broken, then I don't understand you. You have to have felt that at some point in your life. And I just find the emotional complexity of this movie is so strong. But then you have that visual element where Machoyan is using the frame to make this character smaller or bigger, or just capture his emotional state. The barren wasteland around him, the mountains that dwarf him in the background. They just the little tiny visual touches that he uses to underline where this man is in his life and why he's there and why that's such a difficult place to be. There's just so many layers to this visually and emotionally that it just came together in a way that speaks to me like no other movie spoke to me in 2021. And that's why I love The Killing of Two Lovers.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Just an absolute phenomenal movie. You never really know where it's going. You want it. I guess, yeah, you get frustrated by the decisions he makes, but buy into everything he does.
Yeah.
And it really is remarkable.
There's a scene also in this movie that is, it reminds, much like The Lost Daughter. There's a scene in this movie that is so uncomfortable. I wanted to stop the movie. He's having a confrontation with this guy outside of his former home, and the guy is just being an absolute smug prick. And while our guy is not a good person in many ways, like he's a fuck up in many different ways, you're thrust into you're on his side and you're sympathizing with him because this guy isn't a good guy. And you want that fight so bad, but you also know that his wife is there. And if he fights this guy, that's only going to get him into more trouble. And the tension of that scene is so immense. I almost had to stop the movie to give myself an emotional break from just the screaming tension of this. I was once in the midst of a situation where my ex and her new man were moving on together, and I was there trying to be a supportive friend to my ex, and he gave me a leather jacket, and I wanted to just punch him in the face so hard and bury him in this leather jacket. Like, don't try to trade me a leather jacket for this woman I love. Don't do that. I know that's not what you think you're doing, but that's what this is like. And I hate you so much. And so I've got that, kind of emotional connection in the back of my head as I'm watching that scene. And it just made it that much more painful, but also very, very real.
Oh, that scene was phenomenal. I mean, you just want her to see it, what you see, and
yeah,
she doesn't. And then where it goes, you're just like, fuck. I mean, I don't know. I definitely can't argue for where I would place any movie. I totally understand why this would be a number one for anybody. Again, great filmmaking, great storytelling, great visuals, great use of the scenery, like you said. with the mountains making him, just burying him.
There's one little tiny scene that I always come back to in my mind, and it's just this brilliant use of framing. He's out with his kids, they're playing with this stomp rocket thing, and his daughter is, very upset with him for, not doing enough to keep their family together. She's off on one side of the frame, him and his littler children are on the other side of the frame, and slowly he begins to bring them together, but he leaves the space on the right hand side of the screen, just leaves it there, even as she's inching closer to and it's just this brilliant visual creation of the way he uses this empty space to underline the emotions of the scene is so perfect. I just adore it so much.
Yeah, I mean, this is the year. I mean, usually there's one or two perfect movies. There's like 10 or 15. Like, and I'm not even kidding. Like,
no, like
perfect movies.
Pig, John in the Hole, Tick Tick Boom. Yeah, those. What I can't wait for you to see Nightmare Alley. Like, you're gonna see this. You're gonna see that too.
Yeah, and I mean, honorable mentions for me that I mentioned The Power of the Dog. I really like that movie a lot. Annette, I had a hard time getting into, but I just from a pure artistic perspective, I thought that was a pretty fantastic movie. I kind of like Cruella for a blockbuster. I thought Bad Trip was funny, but doesn't deserve to be on the list. And Rollers, I thought was
I love Rollers.
Pretty good.
I also got on my honorable mentions Zola, another A24 movie that is incredibly smart and clever and funny and weird. I really dig it. Bergman Island with Vicky Krieps and Tim Roth is a real lovely tribute to movies and movie making, and also of the complexity of Ingmar Bergman and his ideas about marriage and family. Dune is maybe the best blockbuster of the year. Visually inventive, brilliant work of blockbuster filmmaking. Last Night in Soho, Edgar Wright nailing sort of a horror movie time travel thing. It is just this sort of ineffable thing that's all its own and just incredibly brilliant. Spencer with Kristen Stewart as Princess Di. Pablo Larraín is an amazing director and brings her home in a way that I don't think any movie possibly could. Any straight ahead biopic of Princess Diana is never going to be as emotionally rich or thoughtful as Spencer truly is. The Novice arrived very late in the year, starring Isabel Fuhrman, a movie about obsession with being the best, and just so what a grind that movie is, and the way it captures somebody who is grinding it out quite literally is quite amazing. Shiva Baby, a comedy / horror film about a Jewish girl going to a Jewish wake, and having to endure her family. Emily Seligman, the director, using this horror movie score to underline her anxiety as this very unique story is played out. Very smart, very funny movie. And then Licorice Pizza, I think, is another one that you're absolutely going to love, especially Bradley Cooper's brief appearance in that movie is one of the highlights of the year, and being just so incredibly funny. Just very briefly, he's not in the movie very long, but just an incredibly brief moment. He's so funny, but there are so many great moments in Licorice Pizza. It's the least serious movie of P.T. Anderson's career, and maybe if I had something more to grasp onto, I might have slipped it into the top 10. But it's definitely one of, again, he's a genius, and
he's one of those guys where I think I've mentioned before. Every other movie I like, the other one I hate. So it's like hate, and this will land on the like. I'm definitely that Nightmare Alley and The Last Night in Soho are the three that I feel like I felt bad for not seeing. At the same time, being that they're studio movies, I'm kind of happy they weren't on your list. Not that, I mean, Nightmare Alley was, but I think it's cool. Like, I felt bad having, even Don't Look Up on my list, a studio movie, because I really like the idea of all these small movies actually being the best movies of the year. And even the last two, I felt bad having that on there. But I don't know. This really is a kind of a sleeper of a year that unfortunately a lot of people aren't getting to enjoy as much as we are, but it's their loss.
It's true.
Let's see. Next week we've got Thief for Me, the 355, American Siege, American Gadfly. Gadfly. I gotta write my words better. King Car. Oh, what the fuck is this movie? Starts with an R.
Rucker.
I forgot the R at the end of it. And then I'm gonna watch The Tender Bar, which you have described as the most acting of any movie in 2021. And notice it wasn't on his list. So
I love you, Ben Affleck, but Long Island is not something that I can get behind.
91 Cuffs, Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and Free Jack come out.
And already 92 actually, but yeah,
92.
But it's already 92 is already better than 91.
Yeah, notice we didn't do a best of 91 because it's just like Barton Fink, South of the Lambs. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's it. Don't need to go any further. It's all garbage.
Let's see. We've been going a while. Do you want to do a flick chart or?
I'm up for it if you are.
All right, let's go until my dog barks. That means my wife's home. So. Let's log in here. Let's see what we got. The Reader, Crossroads.
The Reader.
I don't know.
I'm not seeing Latrue.
Revolutionary Road, Citizen Kane. Okay, Deadpool, Highlander. Repo. You seen this? The Kinetic Opera.
It's not important enough to remember.
The Birdcage, Harry Potter, and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I actually went to a Harry Potter themed New Year's Eve and watched 5 Harry Potter movies and the new HBO documentary Reunion.
Is that fun?
I had fun. I did have fun.
Good. I stayed at home. I guess, yeah. I mean, I got no complaints, so it was a nice weekend to actually spend time with the family for the first time in a long time. Quiet Place, Judge Dredd.
A Quiet Place.
How was your Christmas?
Pretty boring. Yeah, nothing much. A lot of people. Obviously, everybody misses my dad, and that was kind of the overarching theme of Christmas.
Yeah. My wife she knows I like wrestling, so her presents are always making fun of me. So she got me this Rocker Soccer cereal box, whatever it is. I'm not.
That's awesome.
And a Jim Ross card that he autographed, and I'm like, Jim Ross. I mean, I love Jim Ross. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Just like, really? What did you think of this? She's like, isn't that the guy with the annoying voice? I'm like, no, that's Bruce Pritchard.
You've never seen an episode of AEW, have you?
I have seen a couple. I've heard he's getting older, so I don't know. I'm not gonna badmouth the guy. He's got skin cancer. So, yeah. Anyway, the Avengers with a weapon.
I'm split. I'm split on that. I know which way you're going on it.
Yeah.
I just go with Lethal Weapon. It's fine. They like the same movie.
It's fair enough. Bloodsport, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol.
Mission Impossible.
Any Given Sunday, Gone with the Wind.
Any Given Sunday, fuck Gone with the Wind.
It's hard to get Any Given Sunday to pick the movie. Diner, The Replacements.
Any Given Sunday is slightly less racist. Diner. I'll take Diner. Replacements is a terrible movie.
Highlander, Coyote Ugly.
Coyote Ugly.
Looper, Before Sunset.
Before Sunset. I love Looper though.
A Ghost Story, Hancock. I haven't seen a Ghost Story, so I can't answer.
I don't know what to pick on that, honestly.
All right, we'll skip both then.
I've seen neither of those.
Captain America, the First Avenger, the Bone Collector.
Captain America.
Live Free or Die Hard, The Wizard.
The Wizard.
I love that movie. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, Charlie Wilson's War.
Charlie Wilson's War.
Tremors, The Babadook.
The Babadook.
Black Swan, My Stepmother's an Alien.
Black Swan.
And then Before Time 3.
Never heard of it. Or I've never seen it. I have heard of it. I watched Jenny Nicholson rank them all on YouTube for some reason because she's just hilarious.
Laura, seen that one?
Yeah, Laura's better than Independence Day.
Sweet. Toy Story, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. I'm going to go Toy Story, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta get Toy Story. That's hard. Recency bias makes you want to go Spider-Man a little bit, but you've seen the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari?
I saw that at a independent theater in Rock Island with a person in person playing the piano to it. It was amazing.
Is it better than 101 Dalmatians?
Yeah, it is.
Clerks 2, epic movie.
Clerks 2, not a contest.
The Weapon Monster. It's not fair.
Monster.
Fine. Dunkirk, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol.
Mission Impossible.
Oh, yeah. Back to the Future, Braveheart.
Back to the Future.
Yeah. Michael Clayton, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Michael Clayton.
The Hot Chick, Terminator Salvation.
The only thing that can make me choose Terminator Salvation is the hot chick.
Nice. I didn't think you'd be able to come up with something that worked out good. Bad Trip, Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah. Although, like I said, Bad Trip's a lot of fun. I'm assuming you haven't seen Hellraiser Bloodline.
I have seen Hellraiser Bloodline.
Really? Then I'm curious which one you like better.
3 from Hell.
Not even that good.
That's how bad Hellraiser is.
Parasite, The Wolverine.
Parasite.
Yeah. Too Fast, Too Furious, Joe Dirt.
Too Fast, Too Furious. Smarter movie than Joe Dirt.
Barely. Parasite, Witness.
Parasite.
Cold War, 12 Years a Slave.
That's a good one. Those are 2 really good movies. 12 Years a Slave.
Why don't I remember Cold War?
It's a foreign film. Played at Cannes. I've never seen How Green Was My Valley. I should, because I think it's a Best Picture winner.
The Martian, Pentagon.
The Martian.
Very rarely when I go Ridley Scott over David Fincher. Ooh, Manchester by the Sea, Zack and Mary make a porno.
So mean, because I love Zack and Mary so much, but I can't pick that over Manchester by the Sea. I can't do it.
Yeah, Manchester by the Sea is
so amazing. Yeah.
Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Castaway.
Where are you going on this?
I mean, it's back to the bar. I think Castaway is just amazing acting. I don't think the movie's great.
Yeah.
Jumanji is a safe, easy movie to be successful with. But I like Jumanji a little better.
All right, I'll go there.
Like, I would appreciate Castaway.
I've not seen I Vitelloni. I want to because it's Fellini.
Sky High or Sense and Sensibility.
Sky High. Sense and Sensibility is quite good, but it's not as entertaining.
Still that movie way too many times for my age. I was old enough to not see that movie a million times when it came out.
I've not seen Johnny Eager. I don't know that movie.
Gamer, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Gamer is utter garbage.
Empire Records, Rambo 3.
Empire Records all the way.
The Wife, Warrior.
The Wife.
So that's happy with that. I know you don't like Warriors much. Child's Play, Ghost World.
Ghost World.
Solaris, Big Trouble in Little China.
Solaris.
Justice League, I Am Sam.
Justice League. Either version doesn't matter if it's the Snyder Cut or not. I Am Sam is unwatchable.
Rocky, Star Trek 4.
Rocky.
Josh would have picked. Malcolm X, Marlin.
Malcolm X.
Amazing Spider-Man, The Straight Story.
The Straight Story. I don't hate Amazing Spider-Man.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Matchstick Men.
Temple of Doom.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Inspector Gadget.
Ironically, I think Her Majesty's Secret Service is actually the best Bond movie because it's got the least samey Bond, I guess.
Night of the Iguana.
I've not seen that one. I need to see that one. But
Hidalgo, Rate of Fire.
Rain of Fire. Hidalgo is incredibly snooze-inducing.
Blue.
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I like the Green Hornet. I love Seth Rogen, and I would watch that over Clue.
I agree with you. Great Mouse Detective or Beavis and Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead Do America. Funny fucking movie.
Wolverine, Notting Hill.
Notting Hill.
3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Never seen the other one.
3 Billboards of Cries and Whispers.
It's another one I need to see.
3 Billboards Do It Little.
3 Billboards.
Superfly, Beavis and Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead.
Kung Fu Hustle, The Birdcage.
I hate them both. You pick.
All right, so we're done. Oh. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, American Gadfly is available for rent tomorrow. If you want to check it out, it's a documentary on presidential candidate Mike Gravel. You know anything about him?
No.
You'll be fascinated. It's something. His presidential candidacy in 2019 was run by 3 teenagers. It's amazing. You got to watch it.
Awesome. I will do that then.
All right.